Okay, I'm getting many messages. Okay, so hi everyone. I hope you people are good and having fun. Your day was a good from starting from the morning to evening. And it would be more good like after the session, like you guys get to learn more over here. So firstly, again, I want to welcome you all for our day 4 of Bootcamp presented by Geeks for Geeks LPU in association with Skillvalley.in. Okay, guys, before beginning with our session, I just want to just tell some rules like related to the mails you guys are sending us for the recordings. Just a request to you guys to that please send the mails before 9 a.m. Like right now, if we are going with day 4 session, so it's a responsibility of you or of yours that if you need any recording for the day 4, then you have to send the mail formally mail. Just clearly mention over there that you need the recording of this day, and you have to mail that before 9 a.m. tomorrow. Okay, after that we won't accept your mails and we don't send you any link. Fine. So it's a request, and you people can get the access of only 3 recordings out of the 15 boot camps. Like you have to attend 12 days. It's necessary for you guys for getting the certification. If anyone has any other doubt, please ask right now. Like it, and don't spam the Telegram group related to the mails and all. Like you will get, if you mail us before 9 a.m., then you will surely get access to the recording. Okay, Anivan, you said that you need videos for the revision. Okay, after this 15 days boot camp, you will get access to all the videos. But till that, you can get access for the only 24 hours for some days, like if from 15 out of 3 days. Fine. Still, anyone has any other doubt, then you guys can ask. Else we can just move forward. Like our mentor is already here waiting for us. Okay, let's start with our session. I want to firstly welcome our mentor, Mr. Sheikh Azhar, for this day 4. And I wish we people again learn and just interact with our sir again, so that we can just get to know more about our Mern stack, and we will just grow more over here. Now space is yours, sir. You can continue.
Thank you so much. Okay, I guess many people are missing it. They are still joining. The count is still going up and up and up. Even on online, we are not even losing that habit, like getting late on classes or something.
That's a childhood pride, I can say.
Even I do. Okay, till the people are joining, we can have like 3 to 4 minute Q&A. Like if you have any other queries or something, you can ask here.
Yeah, anyone wants to ask anything, they can just raise your hand. We will provide you access to unmute yourself and ask question to the sir.
Git clone not working. Shubham, yes, I have already seen your message on the above. Okay, these kind of issues, no, we already have Telegram group to discuss all of these. Even there, yesterday I was on like 12:30, even till 12:30 night. So I'm there. Like if you need, if something is not working, if you are getting certain errors or something, just share the images or we can discuss right there only.
Shoaib wants to ask something. Let me unmute him.
Please, Shoaib.
Yeah, Shoaib, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for the question. Please, I want to ask about the model building. What's the name of the model?
I'm actually not getting your accent.
Okay, I think I'll be a little slower.
Yes,
the
yes,
model
yes.
in the second class, the model you build in the second class. I mean the model that has the schema and everything in it. What is it called? What's the name of the model?
What name of the?
The model, the schema, and everything.
Okay. The model, right? Yes. So today, in today's session only, we are going to elaborate all of these things. We'll be creating schemas for different models and everything. And as we already had discussed, what are the models? Models are basically, the kind of data collection. Like uh, suppose there would be multiple users. So this all of the users we are going to call user. So that user becomes that model. Suppose there would be multiple categories, right? So that categories we are calling all of these categories in a collection, and we are naming it as in collection. That collection becomes that model. And we are going to code this literally.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excuse me, sir. Hi, I'm Sapnadeep here.
Hi.
Yes, sir. I was just curious about that. We will be using MongoDB, right?
Yes.
So, sir, do we like? I know a bit of SQL. I have worked with SQL a bit, like database updating and stuff like that. Nothing else. So, will I be needing more knowledge of MongoDB to start with this, or you will be teaching us from scratch?
Okay, so we will be starting from scratch only. Of course, if you and some of other people also might know SQL from the beginning, because that was the starting before. But there are slight difference between SQL and NoSQL. So we call it MongoDB is basically NoSQL data. That SQL and NoSQL is the generic name from any database, and there are more, of course. So in SQL we store all of these data in table, right? But in NoSQL, as in MongoDB, we store all of this data as in document, and we bind all of those documents in a particular collection. So I'll be showing you all of these things, of course. But yes.
So, do you mean the JSON type of like structure?
Yes, JSON type of structure, you can call it.
Okay, so sir, just one thing that actually I had been working on, like I was kind of self-learning Node. So yeah, I got stuck many times, and I'm still stuck in here. So do you think that SQL and Node, the packages for SQL, is like deprecated a bit? Because many a times I have faced issues that the data is not going to the database, or some other kind of error is coming.
Exactly. Okay. So the very first thing is, as you are telling that you are learning by yourself only, that's the great thing. Even I have learned from myself. So that is the great thing. Keep moving forward. And secondly, see, okay, how can I make this any sense? Okay, see, with if you are going to work with Node, then SQL is going to make a bit of confliction here, because SQL is not does not belong from JavaScript, right? But here in NoSQL, like MongoDB and so on, these database are very much compatible with JavaScript and Node.js itself. That's why if we are going to work with Node.js, of course there are more packages and more compatibilities with NoSQL database like MongoDB and so on, and not much with SQL. But of course you can work with SQL, but it is not deprecated. You can work for sure, like MySQL you can go with, and there are more. But MongoDB is more preferable because that JavaScript and Node has better compatibilities.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for your question. Anyone else and us wants to ask something?
Excuse me, sir. One question from my side. Sir. Good
Yes.
afternoon, first of all. Sir, I was actually trying to work with Node.js using this Visual Studio 2022, if you know. Yeah, and I was actually trying to use an API from just give me a second, I don't forget. There's some API from some website. Okay, and that API was going to help me with the NLP. Okay, and I couldn't like something happened wrong. I don't know, but the Node.js, my code was right. I am pretty much sure about that. But my NLP, the API call were not like they were not. It wasn't calling my API. So anything like what do you think could be?
What package you were using to call that API?
What package? Oh, okay, I don't remember.
Okay, so as in Node, there are multiple, but the core one is the HTTP, and the better one is Axios. So I don't know which one you were using. If you were using Axios, so there are better
I
documentation
was
and
using
everything.
Axios most probably.
Axios only, right?
I just used the first one I found.
Uh-huh.
I'm not really good with Node.js. Node.js से मैं थोड़ा डरता हूँ. Yeah, I'm a Java developer. Yeah, I'm a Java developer. I used Spring Boot most of the time, but someone advised me to start learning Node.js. So that's the reason I'm attending this whole session.
Okay. Okay, see, so it really depends on the error only, but are you like, can you tell me one thing like that error was from Node or the API itself?
No, API was working fine because I used the same API with Spring Boot. So I think it has to be Node.js. Is there any way if I could just share my code with you, could you analyze it?
Okay, sure. Your name?
My name is Chirag Sutta. I'll send my GitHub link to you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Chirag, we can continue this discussion on Telegram itself. So
Thank
even
you
more
very
people
much.
can learn from this.
Thank you very much, sir.
Right? Okay, Chirag. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir,
Okay.
one request, sir, is it possible for you today to like give a brief difference between fetch or and Axios? Like it confuses me a bit which to use when. Like I'm a newbie, so
Okay, in very short, see, you can use fetch and even Axios, but the thing is, fetch belongs to core JavaScript and Axios is basically, improvised version, and some developers has mixed more features into this and everything just to make the developer experience much more better. Like suppose in fetch you have to handle as in promises with then and so on, but in Axios it comes with async await, like with ES6 compatibility itself. And then moreover, suppose if you are getting certain response in like objectifying, but again you have to convert that to JSON, right? But in Axios you don't need to convert that to JSON. Axios itself convert, if that is the JSON file, then it converts to that JSON and then it returns. So I prefer Axios, but because, and again this is a very personal preference, but these are the features what I have observed and went forward. The major two reason is Axios helps to convert that particular response in JSON. This is the first reason, and the second reason is the better development experience. So I like to code in Axios better than fetch.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, now let's move forward and start what we are actually about to do. So yesterday we were facing certain bugs. Let me share the screen and stop the video so you can get 1080p resolution. Right. Perfect. Okay. Hope is it visible?
Yes, sir. It's clearly visible.
Okay. Let's start from yesterday's code. We can also. Okay, let's quickly run our server. Let's see what's actually happening. And again, there are a bit more knowledge to this, like suppose. So this start comes better compatible with npm. Like suppose instead of writing npm run start, you can just write this npm start. But if you are using like suppose if you're writing any more script to this, as in dev or anything else, then you have to use npm run dev. So again, if you are going forward with this start, then you don't need to write run. You can just write start right away. So npm start. And yesterday we were facing certain issues which I commented out and then have shared. So what we were doing yesterday is, so we were getting this error, right? So what we were doing actually, this we were using this router directly. like this router get, and we were importing, but we forgot to use like this, because this router is the method. Like you have to use, even if we are not using this, then here router is a method, and then get. We have to use something like this, right? So instead not using this method again and again, we are just holding it to a constant, and then we are using multiple times as in get and post and so on. Okay, so let's just start with something we already had planned. Okay, so this is what we are going to create, right? Now we have Zomato, now we have folder structure with model, modules, and so on. So now today we are going to focus moreover on this section, models. What are models, what we are actually going to do, and what are these properties and everything, right? So let's move forward to this. User. Now in model, in the user folder, let me just click this a bit. Okay, to this model folder, let's create a folder, as in we can call it schema.js. Here we predefined all those schemas, but before moving forward to schema and everything, let's go and check what we are actually going to use this. Okay, so this is another package. Again, we are going to work with MongoDB here, right? But if we work directly with the MongoDB, then there would be a lot of more confliction writing code. Like the developer experience is a bit more advanced writing MongoDB directly. So what we use this node package, and this is basically a sort of framework we can call, as in Mongoose, which is based on MongoDB. What like the every single line we write here, we are basically connecting with the MongoDB, like this is the way we write anyways, but we are connecting with the MongoDB, and then the transactions and writing schemas and everything, we are going to work with this. If some of you have worked with SQL, so the way, no, that is again ORM, that is not even a sort of a package or something. So this Mongoose, we can consider this Mongoose as in MongoDB, and then we are going to work with it. Okay. Now, MongoDB. So this is the database we are going to work with, right? But we have to set this database on local first, and then we can move forward and make transactions and everything, right? So let's create one. So I have a sort of a blog here, which is more proficient to make you understand with step by step how you should do it. I'll share this on Telegram for sure. But for now, I can just help you to go through this. MongoDB community server is all we need. Okay. So here are multiple MongoDB servers, but what we need is this one, community server, because we need to work with MongoDB in local. So here we go. This, like if you are downloading for Mac or maybe for your server or something, and Linux are also there, and choose whatever you want and then just download. It will just throw it up. It will just give you an installer package and then go next. Like we can also go through here, like suppose download, then next, and so on as we do. And again, if you are a Mac user, then again, you can follow the documentation all along. And after installing, this is the kind of compass we are going to get, which I'm going to land in a moment. So this is MongoDB Compass. So what is this Compass? Compass is basically, suppose there is a database, right? But to fetch that particular database, all those data, and to see what are there, what are not, we cannot write codes every time and then fetch it, right? So what we do, there is a compass, like suppose even in if you have worked with SQL, there is something like PHP myadmin. So the way we use that, even in MongoDB, this is what we have. We use this to work with the database in local. And this is what we are going to get. Basically, if we, no, not configured. So by default, you will get this local storage. And here we go. So after connecting with the local database, this is what we are going to get. Now, there are 4 databases, but we are going to create our own. And how we are going to do that? So here we go. Let's just, shall we copy this? No, let's just write our own code. Now, in the source folder, let's create, we can call it library as in live. And there we can create another folder as in Mongoose, or this is going to create a bit more conflict, you know. For tutorial purpose, we can just do it right away. Okay, we can remove this and maybe we can leave this. Okay. So firstly, we need this package. So let's just install this package, close the server, npm install Mongoose. Again, as I told yesterday, no, maybe the day before yesterday, I indicates installed, and this is how we install the package in our project. Package as in node package manager, npm package. Okay, now let's run the server again. Now we have Mongoose. Now let's go through the code one by one, what we are actually doing here. So what is this? Suppose this is a particular URL, right? We are connecting with a certain IP address and then we are fetching this website and so on. So to fetch with the database, like as in NoSQL database, as in specifically MongoDB, we get certain link to connect with that particular database we have. Now, if it is in local, this is the way we connect. And if it is in server, of course, you will get a certain link even from there. And you just write, I think, this. Mongoose.connect. And let's just copy this only. I know, you are not going to work. Dot. Then if response is there, then just simply log connected to DB. That's all. Now, as we all can see here, connected to DB. Now, again, this is test, right? But what we want to call our database is Zomato clone. Okay. Now here we are using this Mongoose and connecting with the database directly, and then we are responding. Like suppose if it is successfully connected, then just log connected to DB. Now we can also move forward and handle the error. Like if we are getting certain error, console.log, unable to connect DB. That's all. Okay. Now.
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but some participants are having some queries related to the code you are writing right now.
Perfect.
In the chat box.
Yeah, let me just open the chat box and go through this. Okay. I'm still getting the error that API Okay, slash API part. Anvesha. Oh, Anvesha, you were having this API last day only, right? Okay, let's do one thing. We'll fix it today only on Telegram. But now this code worked anyway. What are Mongoose? Same connection with MySQL. No, with MySQL, there is something different. Like suppose, okay, we are coming forward to this and variable to connect with the Mongo database. Okay. So, with SQL and MongoDB again, so these two are two different databases. Like suppose to work with the MongoDB, we are using this Mongoose, right? We are using this Mongoose to connect with that data with MongoDB, and on the other side to connect with MySQL, there are also different packages to work with MySQL. And Mongoose, what is Mongoose? So Mongoose, again, as I told, 1 minute. Okay. Mongoose, right? So Mongoose is basically we can use MongoDB directly, but again, this is just the cherry on a cake that if we connect with MongoDB directly writing with MongoDB code, then again it will take 3 to 4 lines of code. But in Mongoose, we are just connecting with the database directly with a single line, right? So the way we are using Express instead of Node.js code directly, so this is the same way we are using Mongoose instead of MongoDB directly. Oh, yes, for sure. I can zoom it. Okay. Perfect. Now we can move forward and our database is connected. Now let's see what Mongoose more have to offer. Create the documentations. Okay. Now the schema and that database transactions that we already had learned yesterday, like CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete, and so on, we'll be using Mongoose to do those stuff. So firstly, schema. So again, I'll be referring even this link so that you can learn from documentation, because documentation is highly important. Again, I'm literally repeat, I'm even in the entire session, I'm going to repeat this again and again. The documentation is highly important. You cannot learn from my words or from just watching certain videos on YouTube or somewhere or certain courses. You cannot learn as much as from there. More than that, you can learn from the documentation directly. So again, I know I can understand more. Some of you might not be the good reader, but this time you have to get a better understanding in this technology. Okay, so defining the schema, right? So this is how we define schema, but let me just write our own code and go with every single syntax. Okay, so in user schema, first get the Mongoose package, because we are going to use Mongoose to define the schema. Now, const is basically part of Mongoose. User schema. Don't worry, let me just write the code first, and then you can move forward and learn more with every single syntax. Okay. Also, let me also write the last code. User. Okay, user going to be Mongoose dot model user and user schema. Perfect. Okay, so what we are actually doing here. So Mongoose creates this schema for us. And again, as we already had discussed, what is a schema? A schema is basically we predefined all the properties that we are going to uh, receive for any particular model. Like suppose for user, what we are going to receive, we already had decided we are going to write all of those things. But again, this name, right? Suppose consider we are going to receive name for a particular user, and this name, what we are going to receive, we are for this particular name, we are going to receive string, right? And suppose if we have phone, maybe phone number. So for phone number, we are going to have uh, number, and suppose status, if the user is active or not, maybe we can use something like boolean, like true or false. So these are the properties that we can predefine and for a particular user, and then we can just create a model out of it. So all of these things, again, I know this is going to be a bit technical, but again, with a simple theory, we are going to understand. Okay. And again, after creating this particular schema object, we are going to pass this to mongoose.model. What we are telling here is that mongoose create a model and name it user. So this is the name uh, of the collection we are going to create, and we are passing the schema object in the second parameter. Then mongoose will create this particular collection with this username and then with these schema properties, right? Now we can move forward to this here. So again, as a schema, and then we are going to create this schema object, right? And here are the different parameters like string and so on. So they defined a string directly, but why I have defined, like I have defined in this way, like string, and this is date. And again, there are a lot of data type you can see here, like string, number, date, buffer, boolean, and so on, right? Okay, and this is how we create the model. So like we are going forward with a bit, I'm just telling you in a single line that this is what model is, this is what schema is, right? But for a better understanding, you have to go through the documentation and you need to read out all of these to get better understanding to this, right? IDs, again, we are going to work with these. And again, I guess that's all for this time. Okay. Now let's just define our, okay, so now I guess we are clear what is a schema and how we are creating this collection and all of this, right? If you have any queries, please. Error, cannot find module Mongoose. Yes, of course, because you have not installed Mongoose. You have to install this first. npm install Mongoose, yes. Thanks, Jagreed. Schema is basically a collection of data. Yes, schema is basic structure of your database. Yes, schema is the structure of the database, and the collection is like what type of data there would be. Collection is this mongoose.model. Do we need to learn MongoDB also, or is it fine? It's fine. You can. Okay, so this is a nice question, Ishika Zan. Okay, so suppose if you're going to, what shall we learn, like MongoDB or Mongoose? So now, if you're going to work with Node, you can go with Mongoose. Just learn the entire fundamentals and everything that you are going to work with Mongoose, and you will be learning MongoDB side by side. Like suppose even on MongoDB, we work in all of these. Like suppose we define the schema first, then we import this as a model. Maybe instead of Mongoose, we'll be using something like MongoDB, but this is the same way, the same fundamentals that has already been used on MongoDB. So both are almost same. But if you're learning Mongoose, you are learning MongoDB side by side. In 11.9, sir, we're making user available globally, just like module export. Yes, we are going to export this. This was just for the sake of better understanding. And I guess that's pretty much it. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, now we have better clarity, like how we can define all these schemas, right? So let's just define this user schema first, and your task will be to create all the other schemas that we already had predefined here. This, I guess you already have this. We have shared this on the very first day. If you haven't got it, I'll pin on Telegram chat today only. So just go through all these schemas and define it as we are going to do right now. So again, for user, what we thought about it is like we are going to define name, phone, password, email, right? So let's just go and do it. Name, phone, email is going to be type email. This number is defined, maybe string. Okay, now here, suppose we are getting a user which has phone number like 123, right? Now if we are getting another user to say like if we are if someone is requesting to create another user with the same number 123, then this structure is going to save, right? But here why we have defined specifically that the type should be this and so on and so on, because we also have to define more properties to it. Like suppose here we can define unique to true. So suppose if we already have a user with phone number 123, and if a new user, if someone is trying to create a user with the same phone number 123, then they won't be able to create it because we already have it. So we predefine this. And why do we predefine? And why do we predefine? Like suppose if a user, suppose we have saved two user with the same phone number, like 123, right? Now if a user is trying to log in 123, then which user he should, like which user data we should get? Like suppose we have two user 123 123, and we are not sure about like which user is actually requesting us, right? So for to solve this confliction only, we make it unique. And what moreover, password, yes. And again, you might have more question on this, like what are the more properties we can add? So schema types. Okay, so these are the properties, indexes, like indexes, strings, all schema types. Okay, so these are the properties. Like suppose in email, what we need is, these are the good option. Like suppose lowercase, right? So in email, like suppose if someone has registered with abc@gmail.com and a capital, and we are putting it as in true, as in unique, right? And some other user is trying to face something like abc@gmail.com, but again that particular a is a small, so this will consider as unique because the last one was a capital and this one is a small, right? We don't want that confliction here. So what we do is we make lowercase true. So all the users, like all the users we are going to create here in our database will be filtered, and all the cases would be in the lowercase. So this lowercase, uppercase, trim is also there. Like suppose the trim as in space, extra spaces, like suppose this is one space, right? Now, if someone put extra space to this and save the data, so the extra space would not be there. So we can use even trim. Match enum is again one of the data type which has introduced recently. Minimum length, maximum length, again we can decide even all of these things. Like suppose in name, yes, in name we want maybe minimum length as 3 at least. The name should be at least 3, and the maximum length should be maybe maybe 110. That's it. So again, we are going forward and writing all these are not necessary for these particular project, but again these are very specific to the requirements. Like if the project requires, then again then we are going to do this. If the schema requires, then we are going to do this. Like suppose in phone number we don't want more than 13, right? So we do this, like copy, not copy, we can just cut this because we are not going to apply this on phone number. on a name, we are going to apply this on phone number. So minimum at least 10 digit number should be there, and maximum should be 13. So this is how we write this. This is how we create schemas. Perfect. Again, more than 7 queries. What you guys are talking about, will store password in plain text. Of course, we are not going to store password in plain text. Validator and everything. Yes, we are going to work with validator also. Okay, perfect. May I get the, okay, those things are there. Perfect, move forward. Okay, so again, if you want to move forward and learn more on this, please visit to the documentation. You need it. Okay. I guess that's all. Now we can move forward and keep creating the user data. Email, now address, role, and so on. In address, okay, so here is something. Okay, we are going to work with address because the address would be the object. Now, role, as in, for now, let's just put it as in string. And order ID. So order, maybe we can put this as in the orders, which would be array of order IDs. And for admin, restaurant. Okay, and restaurants. If there is an admin, then we are going to put this on maybe restaurant ID. So not this actually. Perfect. Now, this address and orders are array and object. I don't know, I'll be able to find here in the documentation soon. If I don't get, I'll just write away, but just for the better understanding. Okay, we can go with anyone, arrays maybe. Not pretty much clear. Okay, not here. So in address, what we do, like suppose if any property would be a new object, then we define this object as a new schema. Why? Because this schema itself is the object, right? So we defined, there's a better practice actually. Schema. And then here we write something like name of the address, string, and zip is like number, and maybe address in line. That's it. Okay, for now these are enough. Perfect. So if we are defining any object, like any object for any property, we'll be defining with schema. And if we are going to work with with arrays, then we don't need to define anything. Like suppose we can just define it right away that this is going to be an array by defining any array. And then within that array, what kind of item we are going to get. Like suppose if we define this object, then we are going to get multiple objects of multiple objects in this array. But if you're going to get IDs, then we can define something like string, like this orders would be multiple string, like array of string. And this is how we define it, right? So I guess we have covered pretty much more of the data types here, so that even on the other schemas that you will be defining, these, all of these would be there. Okay, now if we have defined our schema, let's just import it, sorry, export it. Okay, so there are two ways of exporting. Like suppose if you're exporting like this, again, I guess you know this already, but these are just advanced JavaScript that we can discuss. Like suppose if you're exporting like export and maybe with a name user, then on the other page, the import would be something like const the user and require from wherever you want, right? This is the way we'll be importing on the, sorry, this is the page, this is the way we'll be using on the other modules, right? But if we define something like this module.export, then on the other side, what we can do is just like this. So what are the difference? Like suppose if you're defining this module export, then in this, and we are importing only a single export from this entire file, right? So this is the single one, right? Now we cannot just write multiple. Like suppose if you are in like suppose if you are importing user and categories and so on with the same page, then we are not going to write something like this and so on and so on, right? But if we want to import multiple objects from these file, then we need something like this so that we can import multiple files, right? Then with what we do, as we showed, like exports dot with a particular name. Perfect. But we are going to import the entire file because there is not much to import from here. So now our schema is ready. And now, so what your task would be tomorrow, you have to work with these other schemas like here. You will be creating this restaurant, payment, and categories, item, and orders, right? All of these would be there. You just need to define it, and you need to create your own schema. You need to just create the folder. Like suppose categories and item folder is already there. You need to create restaurant, orders, and payments. Payments are not needed for now. We'll move forward later on, like restaurant, items, orders, and so on. So you will just need to create the folder, and under that folder, just create a schema file as we already did. So there would be, this example would be already there. Like I'll share this code with you and you can go through this code and just, copy paste, or maybe copy paste would be a bad idea. Like if you, I don't know if you have noticed or not, I do not copy paste much here, because what I like to, what I prefer is to write my own code that makes more sense and my hand get to know like what I'm actually doing. So next time I don't need to copy that to code. I know what I need to write. So you just need to go through these and just create your own schema, because tomorrow I won't be going through all those schemas. Tomorrow we might come up with the code where all those schema would be predefined. And again, we'll share that code too, but you have to do it by yourself for now. Okay, now our schema is ready. Now let's work on the transactions, like how we are going to save our database, how we are going to save our data to the database, how we are going to uh, retrieve those database, like the CRUD operation, basically. Let's work with those. Connections are there, queries. Okay. So these are the queries. Documents, we already did queries. Okay, so here is the CRUD operation as we can see, and maybe if they prefer any better answer, no. Okay. So as we had already discussed on the CRUD operations and everything, like the transactions with the database, we'll be doing on the model section only. So let's create another file here, which we can call something like index maybe. Yeah. So in index, we'll be defining all those transactions and everything. So let's just import our model first, like user from require the same file, which is perfect. Now let's write our first function. Like, let's just create any user. So okay, we can go and write the controller also. So create user, right? Or we can just go and type right away. I hope most of you are familiar with the arrow function. If not, you should learn on JavaScript itself. Okay. I guess we are missing something. This exports we are missing. Okay, the moment we type dot, so here we have the model, right? Again, let's just go back here and see how we are creating. We are exporting, we are just generating a model here with the collection name, that the collection name would be user, and the collection object, like the schema object, would be these particular object, right? And then we are importing it. And after importing, with that particular model, we have various functions here, like all these. So these are basically queries that we'll be using for sure, but most of the queries will be using something like find, and find have various options. But for now, let's just consider as in find. And okay, let me just right away. Let's just export it directly from here because we are going to work with multiples. Update user, okay. User dot update was deprecated actually. Now we have update one or update many. So let's consider as an update one for now. And we can go and delete, and delete also would have that delete one. We have created this, and let's just work with get. Oh, we already have this, I guess. This get. This would be create as in this. Perfect. Okay, so here is our CRUD operation. Yes. Okay. So here is our CRUD operation with the database, like in a short function. Of course, we are going to write and everything. So this CRUD operation is basically creating that database. And here we need to send all those data, like what we need. Suppose an object with name of something, and then again with phone and so on, what we have already decided on this schema, right? And again, there were one more thing that I forgot to tell you, which was required. Required is something like, suppose if I'm going to create, suppose what required are needed. Let me just define this first. This is required, and the phone number should be required, and the password should be required. Role should be required. Role should be required, and this data should be required. Okay, so these are required, and one more thing, which is default. Like suppose if this is Boolean, then we can define. And I'll tell you what it actually happens. Okay, so again, two more things. Required, like suppose here, like suppose the name is required. We are asking that name should be required, right? And here, if we do not send this name, then it won't save. Of course, we'll throw an error that name is required and so on. But on the other side, also this default, right? So this is required, but if we don't send status, that is absolutely fine because we are defining something by default. And even if required are not there, this default will always, like suppose if you're creating any document, if you're creating any new user, all those users would have something in by default if you are not sending by yourself. Like suppose if you're sending something on status like false or true is by default, you can send it right away. But if you're not sending anything, this will be true by default. Okay. So this is a kind of an object you need to send here just to save this. And the CRUD operation is create, read, which we are calling get here, more convenient, update, and delete. So this is the CRUD operation that we are going to create, right? Let's just do it right away. Okay, let's just do it and then we can move forward to this. Like, okay. So this is a function. We'll be calling, will be something like body. We'll be sending a body here, and we'll be saving that body. Like we'll be sending the object, like the name and the phone number and everything. We'll be sending that object into this create function as a parameter, and that parameter will just save this as in create. And this is a promise. So if let's just not even handle this. So this user.create is basically the promise. I don't know, you can see here or not. Okay. So this is a promise, right? But the way we handle promise is like dot then or dot catch, or maybe with async await, right? But here we are not going to handle this. Why? Because we are returning these promise directly from that function. Like suppose if someone is calling this function, we are just returning it right away. So we don't need to handle the promise here. The like the place where we will be calling this method will handle right there only. So where we'll be handling under modules. So in modules, last day what we did, like all these things, right? These are just index are not needed here actually for now. Okay. So firstly, let's also define our sports dot create this method. So this create now, here we'll be receiving request and response. And again, here is one more takeaway, which is I did while beginning. So what happened is, like suppose we are defining this request and response, right? And remember, this is the way we pass parameters, and they are also expecting the first parameter should be request and the second parameter should be response. So never forget this. You cannot send this like response and request. I know you are already aware of this, but these are very basic mistake. We get confused because both of these look same. So the way I think of this is what we firstly get. First, we get the request and then we send the response. So in that way, we get the request and then we send the response. So on, I wrote this. Now, okay, we also need to import that service here, const. Okay, we'll be importing many more stuff from there. Let's just require the file first. Go one file up and one more, go to the models, user, and index, right? Okay. No. Okay. Oh, users. Sorry. Okay. So here is one more takeaway, which is suppose we need to get this index file, right? Now within this user folder, we have defined index. Now in JavaScript, this index is very familiar. So how JavaScript work in this way is, if there is an index, you can import this just by the folder. Like suppose if you are importing from the folder, so it will just look that index file into that folder and it will return it. So the index becomes the default import file default export file from this user. So like suppose if you're going to import this schema, then you need to define something like a schema or something. But if you have defined something like index, you don't need to explicitly mention. It is not necessary. You can mention it, but it is not necessary. So this is just a way of optimizing and get your productivity level a bit more higher. So here we have this fold. And again, how we got this, like suppose if you're not getting any suggestion or somewhere, just type control and hold control and space. You will get what we are actually getting it from there. So create, delete. Oh, what happened? Oh, again. Okay. So we are not able to import or work with this delete delete name because this is a short of a syntax. Like suppose if there is an object and if you want to delete something, then like suppose in object there is something like name. Again, I'm writing all of these things because there are few beginners who actually need it. And in this object, if you want to delete the name, the way we do it is delete we forgot to name this object, but suppose there's a in the constant of object and this name, not like this. So name. So this is the way we use it anyway, but this delete is basically a syntax, a JavaScript syntax. So we are not going to use it anywhere. So let's just remove it. Delete user. Or maybe we can define delete one, right? Now here, delete one, not like that. Now get and update. Okay, what happened? Requires something is undefined. Of course, something is undefined, I guess. What just happened? Now, oh, yes, of course. Okay, so in this route, they are connecting that these are coming, nothing are coming, and so on. So let's just define short of a callback. It doesn't do it, but it's just absolutely fine. Okay, so we have that CRUD operation, which are actually interacting with the database. And here what we are going to do, let's just create first. Now we have request and response. Okay, so in request, as we had already discussed, in that request, there are multiple parameters like suppose params, query, and body, all of those things we are going to get. So let's just import it, or not import it, we just can do this right away. Or new user is going to be again. So we are going to work with promises as on async await. This create is going to make a bit more conflict, let's just combine this with user directly. And here we can define as a user dot create. This makes more sense. Now here, what they are actually expecting, they're expecting the body, right? In body, they are expecting that particular object like name and phone number and everything. And from where we will be getting request dot body. We are going to come up from where this request dot body is coming along, of course. And after like this is how we are going to handle promises. Like this function is going to call that database server and saving that, and then it is returning the new user, and then you can just return in response as in response dot status as in 200, and then send maybe an object success true and data new user. Right now, what if there is something wrong? Like suppose we are sending something, but the database is off, or maybe something goes wrong. Then how we are going to handle promises? So in a traditional way, the way we handle promises is like dot then dot catch, right? And the way we handle await is like try and catch. error, and here we handle error, right? So this is the traditional way we are going to handle the promises. But this I feel more clumsy, and what I have found is not to use try and catch, because here we are handling only one promises. Like suppose if we would have handled multiple promises in the same method, then we could have used try and catch, because if any of the promises throw error, then we'll be handling it all together. But here, if we are awaiting this, then we can handle this just right away. Like the catch awaiting is handling the catch, not the error. So we can handle the catch just after the method only. So again, here what we are going to do, we are going to response dot status, which is going to be maybe a bit of conflict. So 409 is the number for confliction that defines confliction, and then send again an object which is success, maybe false, and I guess that's pretty much it. Or maybe we can send message with unable to save user, or here also we can send the message successfully saved the user. Okay, perfect. So this is how we write the method function. As we yesterday only, there were a few people who were confused that what are controllers, how we are going to write, and all of these things. So this is the way we handle the controller. So this is the controller, and this is simply the database transactions that we already had mentioned in the user, like here, where we already have mentioned, like this is going to be the user transaction, database transaction, and we are going to write this method. Like suppose the flow should be something like in the request.body. Of course, we are going to come up what is body and so on. But let's just consider we are getting an object of new user data as in name, phone number, and everything in the request.body. And that we are passing that object to this user.create. And if something goes wrong, then we are handling this error. And if we have successfully saved, then this new user, then we are sending success response like this. And of course, this is a very simple one we are going to create. This is a very simple one just for the better understanding, but a lot of things are coming along with this. Like suppose if we are going to create a user, we are not going to create a user in that way. There would be certain functions, like suppose sign up. We are not going to create the user. We are going to sign up the user, right? Then we are going to log in that user. So suppose if we are going to sign up that user, then that we are considering that user is new, and then we are going to use this user.create, right? Then if we are going to log in that user, so we'll be writing something like exports.login right here. And within that login, we need a database transaction, which is something like user.get. Like if a user is trying to log in, we need to check that particular user exists or not, right? So there are a lot of things are going behind, but all of these are just the logic that our application needs. Okay, so a lot of things now till here. So this is just for the demo purposes, or maybe I will comment it out for today. Tomorrow I will remove it. But now we are going to write something like sign up and login and so on. So till now in this controller, or any confusion? Wait, let me also just make it more better. Like go to the router, or we can end it like. By getting this. Okay, in user, like as we have mentioned on the master router, in user, in home page, there would be something, there is a function called, there is a controller called create, and this create is actually creating this. Okay, let's just utilize this controller only and create a new user. But before moving towards that, do you guys have any confusion? Why are we using async await? Because a better development experience. Naming conflict. What do you mean by naming conflict, Jagreet? Will we make restaurant and other files in user folder? No, of course not. The restaurants and everything already has separate folders, like the restaurant schema and the database transactions would be in the module section, model section, and the controller and the router part would be in the modules section separately. That was old message about create function. Naming conflict, that was old message. I'm actually not getting. For recording mail as it is best practice to write some different files, so we can't. Why can't we just write the CRUD operations in schemas? Okay, so here's a question. So why can't we write the CRUD operations in a schema? Okay, you know what, if we are considering, like, suppose writing the CRUD operation in this schema only, like suppose we are getting this, we can hold this in a constant, and then we can write the entire you know, entire CRUD operations and everything right here. So here we go. You know, we can write this entire application in a single file. Yashwant Kumar. Yes, Yashwant Kumar, right? Okay. So Yashwant, we can write this entire application in the single file, but why are not we doing it? Why are we creating multiple folders? We are creating a structure and then we are writing code, just because we are making this application more scalable. Like suppose for now we have a very small schema like this, right? So what if it exceeds, like the project recently I'm working on has like more than 50 properties, and you can understand, right? Like suppose in a single page, if you have more than 50 properties and if there are more than 10 modules, then how you can handle it in a proper way? That's why we create a proper structure and then move forward, so that later on, if something exceeds, then we can go ahead and, you know, scale this moreover. And like the CRUD operation, so in CRUD operation, that is not very limited. Like suppose if we go to the CRUD operation like this, the CRUD operation like this 4 is not, this is the only 4. There are a lot of things we are going to discuss. Like suppose for now we are going to get this right away, right? Maybe tomorrow we want to get this from name. Tomorrow we want to get this from maybe ID, or maybe tomorrow we want to get this from phone number. So again, those kind of functions will just add on here, and so on and so on, right? So we don't want to make it more clumsy in a single file. That's why we separate all of these functionalities and everything, so that later on, if we scale it, then it helps to scale moreover. Yes, this is not only best, but this is what we are supposed to do. Hold on, bootlean, sir. What is bootlean? Where have you find this bootlean? No, this is boolean. Okay, this is boolean. Again, this is a short of a data type. You can just, is a data type that holds value as true or false. Yes, like yes or no. That's it. Why are we using a single rate? Okay, you guys have any other questions, any other doubts, or if you want to tell anything, if you have any suggestions or anything, if you just want to write, just go ahead and write anything. If you want to write your name, just go ahead and write your name. If you want a coffee break, just write the coffee break, anything. I want to interact with you. Like suppose I remember some of your names. Like I remember Jagreet, I remember Anvisha, I remember Ashwarya. So these people are literally interacting, and tomorrow if you guys come up and, you know, we discuss more over on this, then I would remember, yes, you belong to that boot camp only. So it should not happen. We are discussing here, we are spending a lot of time, and we should be still strangers. That I really don't want. Cons new user await use creator catch error. Adrash, okay. You need a break. Do you need a break? If we get more messages on break, then we can have 5 minutes break and chit chat here. Because we have already exceeded our time. And where is our anchor? Anchor, do you have anything on your hand? Because today I have multiple things, and I guess I'm going to exceed the class today.
No worries. It's totally up to you, the way you want to go.
Okay, fine. We'll make restaurant and other files in user folder. No, we will not make, again, Ashutosh, as I have mentioned, we are not going to make any other file in the restaurant, in the user folder. We are going to create separately. Najia, Parveen, hello. I have not attended the previous days. Should I continue to? Yes, you can obviously continue. You are not that late. Just join the Telegram group and you will get the updated course, updated classes from there. Okay, perfect. So now let's just move forward and say and make our first database transaction. Let's just save our first user. Okay, so there is something we are going to use, but before that, I also need to have things. Let's suppose we are going back to Express again because there are few things we need to mention. No, not this. No. This is not what we are actually searching for. Just parser. Parser. Why the official documentation doesn't have enough? Okay, perfect. So here we have just made our DB schema. Yes, we already had user related things will be the user module. Perfect. Okay, let's move forward. Now we are going to make our first transactions with the database, of course, but we are going to handle certain data types, like suppose the JSON file, and this is the sort of a middleware we have to use. But I don't know why they haven't mentioned the right way. URL encoded and everything. No, it is not there. No worries. We can go ahead and get something like express.json. Here is different one. I want to see the code so that yes. So this is the way we use, like suppose now we are going to handle JSON, right? So this is the way we are going to handle JSON, which comes with the Express, of course, and we are also going to work with URL encoded, and that is also we are going to use. So let's just code it right away. In index. See, there's going to be a bit more clumsy here. I just remove the, oh, that's fine, it's fine. Okay, before router only. Dot use express.json and app.use. This is the way we use middlewares. Again, we'll be coming up with what is middlewares, what is ports, and so on. For now, just use this. True. Oh no, false, I guess. Yes. Okay, there's going to be a bit more advanced. Let's just work with the JSON first. Okay, so what is this JSON? Like suppose here in this controller, we are receiving this request.body, right? But as we already have seen that yesterday only, that in this request, we have multiple data and this body, we have also an object and so on. But the way we want to work here is simply on JS file, right? On the JS format. So that's why the JSON is the perfect format we are going to go with. So here we are just adding a middleware with express.json, and these file we are going to discuss more on this, like what are middlewares and so on. But what this does is simply converts the request.body to JSON. That's all. So now let's just move forward and create something. Okay. Now we need something like, suppose here yesterday we were discussing something like we can get API slash user maybe, right? We were using to get this, right? But now here, the method we need to decide is something like post, because we decided what we are doing, we are creating something, right? And to create something, what method we use? Post, right? So here we are going to use post method, and browser is not supposed to do that. Browser is only supposed to use get method. Like suppose if you type any API or something here, that will just get the data. It will not post that data. So here to post that data or something, what we'll be using is simply a software called Postman. This basically helps us to interact with the API we are working on, or maybe we already have, or maybe we are getting and we need to work with something. So let's just create something. Okay, I have this there also, but okay, let's just use right away. What you need to do is just sign into this software, and that's all. You are just ready to go. And I also will be sharing this API link, so you can just go ahead and import it. Like from this import button, what you have to do is just import from the link, type that link, and you will get that API right away. So for now, we are going to create a collection of something like Bootcamp, Bootcamp, and into that collection, we are going to add a request. This request is create user, or maybe, yes, for now, let's just create user. Okay. Okay, so we are going to now we have this request. Now this is the method. These are the multiple methods, but this time what method we need to use? Post, right? And this is the URL link we are going to use, which is something like http localhost/API/user. That's all, right? Because we have defined all the router, the index, all the routers should be API, and all the user routers should be under user, right? And on the user router, we have defined that this should be home page. So the API, the user router, and this is the home page. Nothing means home page. Now we need to post, and in post, the way we want to interact is something like raw and JSON, right? So let's just create that object. Now, what we need to send? Let's just create that particular object. Name, maybe Azhar, phone, we consider as in phone number, right? As in 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. Then email, as in Azhar@email.com. And for now, let's just create this one. Let's see if we have required something else. So required phone number, password, and so on. Okay, for now, let's just save the raw password. But we are going to encrypt this for sure. Password is going to be 1 2 3. Perfect. Okay, so these are the required data, and what we are going to do is this is the way we are going to receive. Like suppose what we are trying to do is we are sending the new user data to our API to save that user to our database, and this is our database, right? Let's just refresh it. Somato clone has already been created. We haven't fetched it anything, but anyways, okay. So we are fetching that anyway. Now Okay, so this is the user, and now this new, we are trying to save this new user to our database through our API, right? Now let's just hit the send button and see what we get. Nothing. Maybe we got something. We got an error or something. Localhost. Oh, sorry. I forgot to mention the port. So the port is 2000. Now let's send it again. Okay, this is interesting. So let me just check my any other workplace, maybe my workplace. And the local should be something like or anything. Yes, I'm using the HTTP only. Here also I'm using HTTP. Bootcamp. Create user. Okay. Post method. Now this router, we are using this create method. And here, where is the controller? Here we are getting certain requests and so on. It just console something that. At least we need to get to this controller. No, this is not even reaching to this controller. I don't know, certain error comes along and say, now this is the time to stop the class or what? It should be password. Password. Yeah, it's fine. It's phone. No, everything is fine. Actually, we are not reaching to that particular database. Okay, it's doing this way. Let me just create a sort of a router here. Router dot get the same home page. And again, here we cannot define multiple, we can define multiple routes if the method is different. Like suppose we cannot get to the same route again and again, but we can change the method. And this is why methods are made for actually. Response dot send hello. So now let's just try to hit our local host with user. What I have defined, user or users? No. So these are the controllers. These are the controller. Router. API slash. Okay, user slash. This is the router. Okay, this is very interesting. Let's just resolve this right away. And I won't do like tomorrow. Like I will try not to do like tomorrow as we did stop the class. Not like this. Okay. App dot get on the home page and request response send hello. Now from here, if we send something like this, oh, we are getting this hello from home page, but we are not able to use the router. Interesting. This router is coming from this. Okay. I just fix this. And this particular router has this. And here we are defining this router. Right. Oh, I guess we need to use here. Or maybe get this time, but okay, I was using get. Like you cannot use multiple get because in the user router, we are already using the method like post and get and so on. But here, while defining the overall, all the models router, we are using the method again, which we should not. Now let's just go to the Postman and fetch. We are still not able to get. Interesting. User cannot. Oh, okay. Like this. API/user. Wow. Okay. Working for post, it got conflict. No, it haven't even got conflict. I don't know. Maybe we have to stop this class right away. I was in a mood to extend that class, but this error got me stuck. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to push this code right away, and maybe I will resolve it and then push the code, and then I'll share the code. And if some of you are there, like you can just go through this. And what your task is going to be is to define all this schema for all the other users, like for all the other models, like category, items, restaurants, and so on. And from where you can get all the items are this. Of course, I have already shared the PDF. I will pin that PDF on the Telegram for today itself until tomorrow's class. And then you just create this particular model, like from including this index. No, you don't need to create the index. You just create this schema. Just create the schema for all the models, and that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. And tomorrow we'll be coming up, and maybe in advance, I'll be already creating this schema for all the other models and hoping that you already have created. And how I would get to know is, again, as I can see, most of you has their account, has their private account, and some of you doesn't even have any Instagram ID, and that is absolutely fine. What we can do is, Telegram would be a bit more noisy, but again, just put it on your Insta story and tag Gigs for Gigs, Skillvalley, and me for sure. So we can just go ahead and see what you are actually doing on your side. That's it. Any doubts or anything? I know you have many doubts, and of course, this error we are going to fix, and what so on. Why is my name Ashu?
So, sir, Utkarsh has a doubt. He wants to speak. Yeah, Utkarsh, you can speak.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you perfectly.
Sir, role and status were required, I guess.
Role and status? No. Actually, the thing is, here, thank you so much. You are trying to help me at least. So the thing is, we are trying to console here, like, hello. But we are not even reaching out to this controller. Like this database transaction is coming later on, but we are not even getting to this controller. I think there is something wrong with the router, but to be honest, I was in a mood to just write code and code, not in debug. Like what happened is whenever I get stuck into something, I need a short of a break. But I think this is not the time to get a break. This is the time to end the class. So now I'll just take a short break and I will come back and then just resolve this code and push this code to you. And if it gets resolved with a shorter something, then of course I will share on Telegram. And again, I will comment it out on the source code also, that this is what we were missing out, and then we'll resolve it. And again, in tomorrow's class also, we will do it.
Okay, sir. Sir, I had also this one doubt with populate function. Like, it's very confusing for me.
Populate, right? Okay, that is something in advance, but there is one more thing you were discussing, like you just told, which is required, right? So the role and this status were required. So yes, role, I had to mention that, you got the point. But status, even if I don't mention there, it's fine, because I'm already defining what default it should take. Like if I'm not sending something, it is required, but if I'm not sending something, the default one should be considered. And this role, yes, I should have sent this role. And yes, the populate, right? As in Mongoose populate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what populate happen is, like, suppose let's go to this is a bit advanced, maybe the other users would not understand, but in just a basic way. Where is the database transactions here? So suppose if you're trying to find the user, right now, it will like find one. Like suppose if you're trying to find a user based on anything, and that you got that user, but suppose you don't want to get all the details for that user. Like this would be a bit more bulky every time you export it, every time you receive, you ask for from the database, right? But what you need is just the phone number to cross check that the user is trying to log in with that particular phone number exists or not. Then what you can do is with populate, we are Oh, again, that is okay. That is select. That is select. No. My bad. Populate is something like suppose here in restaurant, right? So in the restaurant, what we'll do, in a string, there would be a restaurant in the folder, and there would be a different schema. So that is the way we link. Again, we will come along to this, but this is stucking in your mind, so that should not left. So that's why I'm just trying to convince. Like in the restaurant, there would be something like ID. What ID? The existing document, the existing restaurant document ID. Like suppose there would be a restaurant, something like a new something like a Chinese restaurant, right? And that Chinese restaurant ID would be here. And now well, suppose if suppose we are finding this user, like suppose we are trying to get this user in the data from the database. Like suppose we are trying to get that user, but we also need that restaurant data. Then what we do it dot populate as in restaurant. So this is how we do. So that these populate will just go to that restaurant and see in that restaurant ID, whatever the ID is, that ID will look forward. That ID will look forward to the restaurant, our restaurant collection, and just retrieve from there. So the way I don't know you have used SQL or not, but this is something like linking two different documents in the same way, which we are going to do. Again, this would be a bit more blurry, but it's fine. The moment we are going to code and work on this, it's going to be clear. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Oh, welcome. Error API in my system as well as the code. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting this. Anvesha will be resolving this on Telegram for sure. Just share the images and everything. We'll be resolving this on Telegram. Okay, so guys, anything else? How to connect to DB? Okay, we already have connected successfully. If you haven't noticed in the index only. So this is the way we connect. Simply, we are using the Mongoose package, and the connect method. Within that connect method, we are passing this MongoDB URL in the parameter, and boom, we are connected. Getting some error, working for me too. Perfect, we'll discuss on Telegram. We'll discuss, yes, should try Postman. No, not even on Postman. Oh yeah, Jagreet, you got a point. Let me just try this. Not like that, but like we had this. Let's try to get this, and if it works. And here on schema index controller, let's just comment this out. Console log hello. This should be commented. Perfect. Jagri suggested to get this, like use the Postman, but I got something. This post might not work, but no, it is not working. It's not working. It should have got at least, but it's fine. I'll be trying that too, but not now. Anything else? Any queries or anything? Or if you want to say something?
Jiggy's already raised his hand. I think he wants to ask something.
Oh yes,
So
yes.
So the code was like the code reached the controller if we tried the post request and then we just had to add the role. It works for me perfectly.
You just add the role?
Yes, sir. So
how this code is not even going to reach in your string, right? So maybe user. We can define. No, it's not. And even if we are going to go back to the same code, then also it's not going to work because it's not even going to hit that user. Post, and where we just defining our routes. Here's the route. Here's we are defining post. Okay. No, it's not going to work. It's fine. We'll come along with this today, tomorrow. Thank you, Jagreet, for helping me. Anything else? I don't see much.
Yeah, I think they are done with their queries.
So soon. I guess I have to be on this student side too. Even I have so much queries on this moment to myself because I'm stuck to this.
They will definitely ask on the Telegram for sure.
For sure, for sure.
They will just have the revision of the concepts, then they will get doubts.
Perfect. And I don't think you guys are literally doing your task. So just go along, and this is what you are supposed to do. Categories, items, and all those that you already have. We already have that on the PDF. Just create that schema and just share it with me. And if you're not able to share on the story, then just send me a personal, just DM me on Instagram, and you know my Instagram ID. It's simply, let me just write it down. No, not this. A dot Azhar. Just DM me with your screenshot, like what you actually have done, and then we can discuss more that there should be something like this or something or whatsoever. That's all. But the preferable one is to share on story. So again, we can reshare it. And again, there are more chances for you to get discovered. Maybe if you're freelancing or something, so you might be discovered from your potential clients or something. So that is the main reason we want you to share on story. And for sure, don't forget to tag Gig for Gigs, Skillvalley, and me for sure. So you have to make items of schema.js, models, items. Do we have to make items of schema? Yes, of course, you have to make items of schema as in models as items. And there you need to create a folder, schemas. See, you would already have these code as we just wrote, like under the user data, under the user folder in models. So you can just get an example, like how the way we wrote it, just get the example from schema and go along with what we have done. Okay. Perfect. I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we are done with our today's session. Thank you, sir, for giving us extra time also just to explain the things. And really, thanks a lot. I think everyone enjoyed over here. The people stay till now. We are having 102 participants. So they definitely learn from you and just put up the stories on their Insta IDs and share with you personally to just learn more and just go with their queries. And guys, feedback link is already dropped down in the chat box. So please go and just mark your attendance in the feedback group, feedback form, and attendance link will be open till 8:15. So please mark as soon as possible. That's it from our side. See you all tomorrow. Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.